Peter Balakian is here. He is a professor at Colgate University. His book, Black Dog of Fate, won the Penn Martha Albrand Prize for Memoir. His new book is called The Burning Tigris, The Armenian Genocide and America's Response. I am pleased to have him back at this table. Welcome back.
Thank you, Charlie.
Tell me about this. What happened?
Well, I think the interesting thing about The Burning Tigris for me in writing it is that I had a chance to weave two histories together. One was a history of the Armenian Genocide, a history that I think is too little known. Yeah. And the other was a history of America's first international human rights movement, which I think very few people knew was the Armenian cause. The Armenian cause, the effort to save and rescue and bring aid to the Armenian people, which began in the 1890s in Boston in particular, among a group of leading intellectuals and reformers, began America's first international human rights movement.
Yeah. And so in a sense that response really did help define not only that first kind of movement, but also the Armenian identity?
I think so in a lot of ways. You're right. I mean, Armenians come to the United States in the late 19th century in the wake of Sultan Abdul Hamid's massacres. And Armenian identity in the West has a lot to do with the way Armenians were embraced by Americans and by intellectuals and reformers who saw the Armenian plight as a major international human rights catastrophe.
How have we done on that score, you think, in the United States since then?
Well, I think it's, in some sense, a tragic history that U.S. policy has not adequately been able to deal with the issue of genocide. And the Armenian case is the first case. It's really the paradigm for U.S. policy that was to follow. Although there was enormous outrage and clamor for Armenian rescue and relief, both in the 1890s during the massacres and then later during the genocide period in 1915. Americans did not intervene formally. There was no political will to get involved and stop the slaughtering. And I think we see that happened again in the Holocaust. The U.S. refused to intervene and take a proactive role in helping stop the extermination of the Jews. We didn't do it in Rwanda in 1994 when we were watching 100 days of massacre in Rwanda, 800,000 people killed. And we didn't really do it adequately in the Balkans. So I feel that we did it late in Kosovo, and it was in some ways successful in stopping more slaughtering. But this has been a huge gap in American foreign policy.
What would you like to happen with respect to the Armenian genocide? I mean, what would you like to see the Turks do what?
Well, I think the Armenian genocide is really an important event for understanding the 20th century. And I feel that it's a history that has been suppressed, denied by its perpetrator, Turkey and its legacy governments.
So you'd like for them to confess?
I think it's important that Turkey acknowledge the Armenian genocide. I think that's important for civilization. I think it's important for Turkey. I think it's important for the Armenian people of the world. I know that Turkey feels strongly about its desire to enter the West, to become part of the EU.
Right.
And I think that the Turkish government has been put on notice that its human rights record is one of the issues that's standing in its way.
Armenian genocide will not keep them out of the EU.
But in a strange way, all of Turkey's human rights problems go back to 1915 and the Armenian genocide. And I think Turkey's inability to come to terms with the Armenian genocide is psychologically a part of the mindset that prevents the Turkish government from coming to terms with its other human rights problems today, against the Kurdish people and against its own intellectuals and dissidents who would like our intellectual freedom and liberty to exist. So I think it is an important event in the Turkish psychic life. I think it's important, too, what I also would like is to see the Armenian genocide find its rightful place in the curriculum of high schools, universities, and general popular knowledge.
I would assume that's almost as important. I mean, having Turkey recognize it, and B, having it become part of the permanent history in a strong and evident way,
absolutely,
would be the most that you would hope to accomplish.
Education is one of my biggest goals, yes. It's really bringing this history in a clear, coherent way with as much depth and research and historical accuracy to a broad public. Because I personally, Charlie, don't feel you can understand World War I without understanding the Armenian genocide. I mean, Theodore Roosevelt put it very well when he said
the greatest crime of the war.
Yeah, he called it the greatest crime of the war. And I feel that to adequately understand the Holocaust and how the Nazis used the total war environment of World War II and the chaos of World War II to exterminate the Jews or help them exterminate the Jews, one needs to understand how this happened during World War I.
In 1919, some of the perpetrators confessed their guilt.
That's right. After World War I, the Allies, and particularly Great Britain, prevailed on the Ottoman government to hold military tribunals, war crime trials. And these were landmark trials. The Germans also held them in Leipzig during the same time, 1918 and 1919. And the Turks were asked to hold these trials both for their treatment of prisoners, that is their mistreatment of prisoners of war, but mostly for what was now being called crimes against humanity in the wake of the Armenian massacres. And lots of high-ranking Ottoman officials and high-ranking Ottoman military leaders went on record confessing their crimes. And they confessed as well the planning, the meticulous, well-planned bureaucratic program to exterminate the Armenian population of Turkey. And these are now recorded in the Ottoman Parliamentary Gazette, Takvimi Vekaye, and these have been translated now into English, and I have a whole chapter just on what I call Turkish confessions.
Right. Now, what is your connection to Armenia?
Well, I'm Armenian American, and my family on both sides are from Armenia, are from the Armenian provinces of the ex-Ottoman Empire, and my grandmother was an Armenian genocide survivor. I wrote about her story as a Death March survivor in my memoir, Black Dog of Fate. So I have some interest in this in that way. I'm connected to this history.
Peter Balakian, The Burning Tigris, the Armenian Genocide and America's Response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.